Bhavatam Samasitam Buddhasu. Hare Krishna and good evening to all listeners of Radio Maurice. As I said, I have the pleasure to welcome today Gopa Kumar Das and Dina Chaitanya Das. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much for having us here.
So I have today the topic in front of me. It's the importance of spiritual master. So I'll tell a little introduction. I'll talk first of Gopa Kumar Das. He has been a monk since 2012. He took a vow of celibacy, which is called brahmacharya. Correct me if I'm wrong, it's okay. And he has been traveling, spreading, and teaching Krishna consciousness for 12 years. And Dina Chaitanya Das, he was already there last month,
before, yeah.
I think.
Yes.
And Dina Chaitanya Das was a full-time monk, but now he is living, preaching Krishna consciousness in the modern world. Are you ready for this radio show?
Hare Krishna. Born ready.
So I let you start. And the first question, I don't know who is going to answer, but what is a spiritual master?
As the word itself says, master, spiritual master.
Mm-hmm.
Spiritual master is the one who has mastered spiritual matters. And in a sense of like, the word spirituality means in connection with Krishna or in connection with God. So spiritual master is the one who's conversant or mastered the science of God.
Okay.
That's a spiritual master.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where do I, for example, me, where do I find a spiritual master? My question for Gopa Kumar Das?
Finding a spiritual master, it means that one has come to the point where you understand that I'm suffering. In this modern world, everyone thinks I'm happy, even though like they're beaten by mosquitoes or too much heat or too much cold, but they think I'm happy. But one who has come to an understanding that if I'm not suffering from cold, I'm suffering from heat. If I'm not suffering from heat, some mosquitoes biting me. And why am I forced to die? Why am I trapped in this cycle of birth and death? And I don't want to die, but I'm bound to die. That person is considered human, actually, especially when he starts questioning, who am I? Like, who am I? Why am I here? Why am I in this situation? That person is considered awakened. So therefore, such a person qualifies to find a spiritual master.
Okay.
Yeah. Then you can be able to identify who's a spiritual master through that way.
There's a nice analogy which I always like to talk about is that these two guys are walking from a bar
Mm-hmm.
or like an event, and they see a guy outside a bar in like an alleyway, and this guy is completely drunk, and he has thrown up all over himself, and he's basically wet himself and also out the back door, the whole show, and he's
Okay.
lying in this alleyway and he's shouting, "I'm so happy." And these guys walking past think to themselves, this guy has no idea what real happiness is, because that is not happiness.
Because he's drunk and
he thinks he's happy.
Okay.
And so in the modern world, in this modern era we live in, everybody thinks they're happy, but they're actually caught in what, if you look at it from a bigger picture, it's just a cycle of unnecessary suffering a lot of the time. And we call it happiness. We've justified it to ourselves through our societal conditioning, through our parents telling us, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to be here and do all these things, claiming it's happiness, but we're actually suffering. And then, so someone who is looking for a spiritual master is someone who has realized that fact, that the happiness that the world is trying to tell me I need to achieve is not actual happiness. So what is happiness, really? And then comes the question, so where do I find a spiritual master? Maybe you can touch a bit more on that. Where do I find one?
Well, like I said before, actually, finding a spiritual master is based on qualification of understanding that I'm suffering.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't understand that, it will be impossible for you to find a spiritual master.
You mean that human, me and I know I'm suffering.
Yeah,
We all know we are suffering in a way,
yeah.
but it's not like that.
Yeah, actually, suffering can be ended. Since we experience, actually, I have this. When I go around preaching, like I said, go around preaching, I meet people in the streets, and then some of them will be smiling, and
Yes.
I tell them, "Oh, you look so happy," and they say, "Yes, I'm very happy," and I tell them, "Don't worry, it will be over soon," because every moment of happiness leads to distress. That's a fact. And every moment of distress leads to happiness. And since we have duality in this world, like positive, negative, black, white, everything's having two sides. So simply since we're having the name temporary, it means that permanent happiness is there. But where do I find it's a permanent happiness? So the answer to that is one should search. Actually, the nature of human life is to question. That's human nature. Even a baby will ask from parents, "Mama, what is this? Daddy, what is that?" That's the nature of a human being. So to question, why am I suffering? Why am I like this? Then you start looking around until you find a person who's happy, and you ask, what's the process of finding happiness? And if they tell you what the process they're using, and you find that the process they're using it only works for few people, it doesn't work for everyone, then you know that I might be gambling if I take this process because it might not work. It might not work for me. And then you look that way, research that way until you find a person who will give you a process that you know for sure that this process, whoever takes this process, end up being happy. Then you found your
Okay.
spiritual master.
And you agree that human we accept temporary happiness.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
That's our
Most of the
condition. That's
time.
our
That's the
condition. That's our
analogy of the
condition.
guy in the street. He's
Mhm.
accepting temporary happiness and saying, "I'm happy," but look at his condition.
He's happy when he's drunk.
Yeah.
He doesn't realize this
Yeah,
is.
but
Just like a hog.
Yeah.
A hog doesn't know what is nice.
Mhm.
When you find like pile of dirt and he enjoys that, he thinks, "Oh, I'm so happy. This is nice." Simply because a hog doesn't know what's nice. Yeah. So we don't know what happiness is. So whatever we think, we find that gratify our senses, we consider that to be happiness.
Even though it
Okay.
may be.
But the nature of a
fleeting.
soul actually is called Satchitananda. Satchitananda means that a soul is full of bliss, is eternal, it is full of knowledge, and it's full of bliss. There's no opposition for bliss. Once you become blissful, there's no question of becoming sad.
Okay.
So what we're actually looking for is bliss, not so-called happiness. Happiness is like just season, you know.
So am I gonna wake up one day? So let me paint a picture for you. So I'm gonna wake up one day and realize I'm not happy with my circumstances, and then I'm just gonna say, okay, so now I heard Gopa Kumar talk on the radio, and now I'm gonna go and look for a spiritual master. So I'm just gonna go to the beach. I'm gonna find a spiritual master. I'm gonna go to the shop. I'm gonna find a spiritual master.
You just keep questioning whenever you meet people. You question people until you find the one who is going to give you the answers that are absolute.
Nah.
They're
And
not
when-
relative. Yeah.
You agree that
No
when
relative
you will
answers.
find this person, you'll stop questioning? Or
Yeah. So the laws of God is that when there's questions, there's answers. So God is going to direct you.
Okay.
Yeah, from within, not externally. From within, He will direct you to ask the questions to the right people.
Okay.
Yeah. And you must inquire submissively, not in challenging mood. That's not the way to find a spiritual
Yes.
master. Yeah.
Like if you always keep asking and
Yeah, not to
not
test.
accept the
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah.
Even if
Okay.
they give you wrong answers, with respect, you thank them and move on and ask a different person.
Okay.
Yeah.
And may I ask you, what is the importance of a spiritual master?
And like I said, when you come to understanding that I am suffering, actually everyone is suffering. There's not even one. Actually, the creator of this material universe, Lord Brahma, says anyone who considers himself happy in this material world has to be considered insane. You have to understand this is a mad person. A person who's saying, I understand that this is not a good situation. Even our bodies alone, they're not like a good bargain. The body is made of all bad things like bones, saliva, mucus, blood.
Mhm.
Nobody loves these things, but that's what our bodies are made of. So when you understand I'm not in a good position, then you are bound to look for solution. But an insane person is keep on doing the same thing everyone's doing, even though they're not happy. But he maintains that mentality that if I follow this, I'll become happy. He sees that the people who are doing this are not happy. But he thinks if I do it, I'll be happy. That's madness.
So
Okay.
so what will a spiritual master tell someone at that point in their life?
So, like I said in the beginning, a spiritual master is someone who's conversant in the science of God. So he only quotes God. The spiritual master only quotes God. We understand the nature of human beings, our conditioned state. We make mistakes. We have propensity to cheat. We under an illusion. We have all these defects. So a spiritual master doesn't have them because he only quotes God. If God doesn't say it, he doesn't concoct his own philosophy. So when you meet such a person, he will tell you how to follow this process of only quoting God. And once you quote God, there's no question of making mistakes because God doesn't make mistakes.
Of course.
Then you come to a perfectional state of life. Actually, the goal of human life is to perfect your life. No other thing. So because we don't have qualities, good qualities in this material in this age, we tend to look for externals. Like if I buy a fancy car, people will admire me. If I do this, people will admire me. But the person who's following a direction of a spiritual master, he gives up all that. He starts to acquire only good qualities in himself, which is like compassion, respect for others, humility, all these things. Yeah, and people respect you a lot more than the person who's acquiring external things.
Material things.
Yeah, and that way, because these things cannot come and go, they become your own qualities. So there's no question of losing. At some point, you become sad, happy, sad. There's no question of that.
Okay.
Then you have defeated suffering.
Thank you. And Dina Chaitanya Das, if I can ask you a question, what is the difference between a modern teacher and a spiritual teacher? Because in my introduction, I say you're preaching Krishna consciousness in modern world.
Yeah. Okay. So the difference, in my opinion, and from what I understand from the philosophy that we practice and that we preach and stuff, is that a modern teacher is going to teach you everything about the world, which is what they're supposed to do. They're going to raise you to understand the world, at least how they understand it and how they were taught it. Whereas a spiritual teacher, a spiritual master, as Gopa was saying, is going to teach you the science of realizing who God is. And God is simultaneously, we say, one and different from the world. So you get to learn to see God in the world, but you also get to see God for who he truly is. So it's a more complete picture, and that's what the spiritual master is going to teach us, is teach us to see the complete picture, not just one aspect of the picture. It's not just going to look at the world and say, here's just the world and how it runs, because it's incomplete. So he's going to teach you to see God, or he's going to help you learn about God and help you to see how to see God in everything that you do in the space that you're in, so that you can become Krishna consciousness. You can become conscious of God, because it's hard to think about God. You can't see God anyway. The average person. I mean, you wake up. It's not like God's right in your face, right? He's not there like, hey, I'm here. So the spiritual master really teaches you how to see God in the things that you're doing, which comes through elevating your consciousness through spiritual practices. And then you start to develop what's called saintly qualities. And these saintly qualities help you to connect with God on a purer level, and then God also reveals himself to you. There's a nice verse in the Bhagavad Gita that says that Krishna gives the understanding to us by which we can come to him. So when we start taking that step towards Krishna, when we start inquiring what is this world about and so on and so forth, then Krishna starts to give us more and say, here's what it's really about, so on and so forth. And then usually that happens through a spiritual teacher or spiritual people. If you don't have a spiritual teacher yet or spiritual master, then spiritual people.
So if I may add to that, another difference between a spiritual master and a modern teacher is that a professor doesn't have to be a doctor to teach you how to be a doctor. That's a fact. A professor can teach you how to be a doctor without being a doctor. But on the other hand, the spiritual master teaches you by example. He is what he's teaching you. So he found God, he teaches you how to find God. He found himself. It's not like he's teaching you God how to find God without having interest in God himself.
Okay,
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, so to go deeper into what Dina just said is that God can be seen in every way. Yeah. If you refuse to see him in with his creation and everything he put in front of us, you are forced to see him through death. You cannot avoid seeing God through death. Actually, God appears to you through death. You cannot avoid seeing him. So all our processes actually to avoid death.
Okay.
Yeah. To avoid death, like let me like exercise, let me do this, let me do that, so don't die. But anyway, God comes to you through death. You
Yes.
cannot avoid that.
We can't say that people that do exercise or don't die. They
Yeah.
die also.
Sometimes the healthiest people are the ones that get
Yes.
the illness they're
Yeah.
trying to avoid.
Yeah.
It's
So
interesting. Yeah.
many people, when I'm going around preaching, they ask me, "Can you prove God exists?" I said, "No, I don't have to prove anything. God will prove to you through death.
Himself,
They will
yeah.
see by
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
see, death will come to you. That's when you see that actually you're not the controller. God is the controller.
But you agree that most of the time, people around you will tell, "Prove me." We
Yeah.
always want proof.
If you don't want to see God through his activities, I mean, like, you see the sun coming from the east to the west every day without even missing one moment. Same direction, same time every day. And you think there's no controller behind? The sun doesn't know time and direction. You think there's no controller behind? That's totally ignorance. And if you don't want to see God that way, you will see him through death.
I agree with you, Gopa Kumar does.
Yeah.
And one of you can tell me, how does a spiritual master define success? Gopa Kumar does.
If a spiritual master can take a fallen condition soul, which is like me and you and any other person, out of this miserable world, back home, back to Godhead, then it's 100% successful. The goal is to get out of this burning house. We have to understand the material world is meant for one thing, to shake you through friends, through like natural disasters, through like sicknesses and all that. You cannot avoid this. The world is always shaking you. The material nature is always shaking you. So a spiritual master's job is to get you out of this cycle of birth and death and take you back home, back to Godhead. Then that spiritual master is successful.
The what we were saying earlier about the man in the alleyway is that most people are in a non-rude way. Most people are like that. I mean, I know I've been like that man, and the suffering that we experience comes from us trying to hold on to the temporariness of life. We think this happy thing is going to last forever, but we don't realize that the happiness, just as the sadness, comes and goes. It fluctuates all the time, but we hold on to it. We hold on to this person. We hold on to this love of my life. We hold on to this money that I've just accumulated, the car, the wealth, the status, and all of it goes at some point.
So this aspect of chasing the temporary is so deep rooted into our condition, very deep rooted, even to the point where even a person who becomes religious, the only reason they becomes religious is to
get more stuff,
get more of those temporary things. Oh, please God, give me this. Oh, please God, give me that.
Always asking to have this and that.
We're not interested in the eternal. You know, I'm tired of this temporary situation. Please God, get me out of it. I don't want to try anything of it. Like, now I use everything for God's pleasure. At some point in my life, when I started in Krishna consciousness, I hated money. Because I realized that actual money brings anxiety both ways. If you don't have it, you have anxiety. Oh, if I have money, once you have it, oh, what if I lose my money? Anxiety never goes away. So now, even though sometimes I get some money, I utilize it in serving God. I don't look at money like, oh, when I get money, I'll be happy. I know that's an illusion.
Yeah.
Like many rich people, they commit suicide. They're on drugs, they do all these things. Yeah. Even the most educated people, they're like alcoholics. Always smoking cigars and drinking whiskey and all that. I'm not interested in that. So when I get money, I only think of how can I use this money to spread Krishna consciousness. I don't care about like having big bank balance. It means nothing.
Yes.
Yeah.
A little bit before Gopa Kumar Das, you talked about the world shakes us. I always say that COVID came to shake us, but I think it was not. Now people are as if...
yeah, that's when you talk about human beings. But shaking is not only on the human platform.
Mm.
even in any kind of life. If you watch birds on the tree, maybe like wherever they are, you notice they're always looking around, like thinking, "Oh, there's a killer who's coming to kill me."
Okay.
Yeah, cats are
Deer.
always
If you
looking out
think
for
of deer as
dogs.
well, yeah.
There's always
They're
anxiety
eating
in
grass,
all
but
forms
they-
of life. Not only human life. As long as you're in this planet, you are bound to suffer. That's how this material world is meant for. Yeah. So once we understand that about this material universe, then we'll try to get out. Our spiritual teacher, Prabhupada, always say this is a burning house. Get out. Many people are busy
This
like
is the way. Get
yeah,
out of
yeah,
this.
Yeah.
get
Don't,
even like
don't think about it.
even
Just
great
get
teachers,
out and then
even
think
great
about
teachers
it.
like Lord Jesus Christ said, "This is not your home.
Yeah.
You cannot expect to be happy far away from home. That's not possible." You look at the Lord Jesus Christ; he never tried to be happy in this world. So he came to show us actually try to use any opportunity you can get and get back home.
But now, so what he was saying is interesting. Like I was thinking of something where I was thinking of this man saying, you're gonna suffer, and like da 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 da.
Mm.
But it's not. That's not what the spiritual teachings are telling us. Not exactly like that. They're just stating a fact. So there's no like emotion behind it. It's not some person trying to tell you better do right, otherwise you're gonna suffer. It's just that that's what's naturally going to occur in this world. It's just
It is
when
meant
you
to
come
happen
here.
if
Yeah,
It's just bound to happen. So it's not like there's some old man with a finger saying you're gonna suffer if you don't do good in your life and you don't do the right thing. It's just suffering is naturally going to occur, and that's what the spiritual master, that's what the philosophy, that's what God is trying to tell us, is that we're far away from home. You're not going to be happy here. So here's the science to come back to me. Just try and follow what I say from whatever level you're at. Yeah.
okay.
yeah. So going back home, back to Godhead is a business of a human being. Yeah, that's why when you look at the animals, there's no nature of questioning. Cats and dogs don't ask questions. A human nature is meant for questioning until you get out of this misery. You're supposed to question every way. So the modern society is designed for you to get more entangled in the material nature, to the point that when people tell you about the actual reality, you only see it as a negativity. I get it a lot. Oh, you're too negative. But they know behind at the back of their minds actually what he's saying is how things are. But actually, the modern society is training you not to look at that.
Mhm.
Yeah, get a brand new watch, get a brand new phone, a brand new car. You'll be happy. They have these things, they're suffering, but they tell you when you get them these things, you'll be happy. That's how modern society is. So it's an individual business to say, okay, I'm a human being. I'm suffering. How do I get out of this suffering? Yeah. When I used to tell my friends when I had lots of money in the past, we have so much money, but we're not happy. They used to tell me, oh, you think too much. Just enjoy your money and forget about this. And I asked them, like, you always complain about your lives as well. And you're telling me to enjoy.
Mhm.
How is this making sense? So everyone knows they're suffering, but they're trying like, okay, if I get a new like iPhone, my friends will admire me, therefore I'll be happy.
You call
Yeah.
you.
And as soon as they get a new car or a new phone, they forget about the new car and new phone. They look at something else. If I get that,
Yeah.
that's when it will be happy. And they get that. Oh, if I get the other thing, that will happen.
There's an
So
image
there's a cycle of like madness, actually.
that make me think of an image I've seen. Somebody walking would like to have a bicycle. The one in having the bicycle would like to have the
That's
car.
modern society.
The
Yeah.
one who has the car wants to have a plane,
Yeah,
and it goes on like
Yeah.
this.
So actually, the modern society is designed to create dogs. A dog, even if you're not interested in to enter somebody's yard, it barks. Yeah. So you go to school, you are trained for this. Actually, like live this way, please the master. Pleasing the master all your life. You're miserable, but the point is to please the master.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's modern society.
And that's if I can add to this, it's pleasing the wrong master. So the
Yeah.
real master in life is God, and then he comes in the form of a pure spiritual teacher to teach us how to please the right master. Yes, because the one is going to eternally make you suffer with no reward.
Yes.
Where God is going to help you to see the truth of life and give you proper eternal happiness again. Yes. So even if there is suffering in this world, you will find that pure happiness at the end if we direct our consciousness towards
Okay.
the right
And
place.
I have a question, but how do I know if I have found the right spiritual master? But I think when we found it, we'll know. Or not?
In our conditioned state, we're not capable of knowing anything. Like I said, we make mistakes.
Mm.
I can think, oh, and I found a spiritual master. I know I found one, only to realize later on that actually I made a mistake. So the only way to know is based on scriptures. So a spiritual master is the person who repeats the science of God. Like just like a child will ask the father, what is this? And the father will say, this is a microphone. Once the child says this is a microphone, no one will protest. Why is he saying this is a microphone? Because he asked someone who knows better. So a spiritual master who's only repeating the message of God, even if though he's not a deep scholar, he doesn't know how to present philosophy deeply, but he's only repeating what God says. That's a right spiritual master. In the beginning of Krishna consciousness, there was a child. She used to stand around the temple entrance, and people will come into the temple, and then this child, she will ask the guests, who is Krishna? And many people will say, I don't know. And she will say, Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. And our spiritual leader, Srila Prabhupada, said, this is Guru.
The child?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Because she's telling people the absolute truth, that Krishna is God. Even though she doesn't go deep into philosophy, just by stating that line.
She has the right message.
She has
Exactly.
the right message.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's Guru.
But it's a guru,
Yeah.
a spiritual master, someone who has the right message.
Yeah.
Consistently.
He doesn't have to be.
He's not going to say someday, I feel like today I'm God.
Yeah. So,
You know?
so if a spiritual master is only repeating the message of God, of Krishna, even though he might not be a philosopher or a scholar or anything, if you reject him, that's a great offense. That's a great offense.
Mm.
Yeah. So a right spiritual master is the one who repeats the message of God. No, not his own ideas. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And time flies, as we say. We have only 1 minute left to end the show. What do you want to say? A word or for our audience to end the show?
So in this age where we are, where everything is degraded, we don't live long, we're not so intelligent, forgetful, all these things. And there's a process that's given to us to get out of this misery. God himself, out of his mercy, incarnates in words, in sound, which is the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. You heard of it? In the Hare Krishna Mantra, it goes like Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Hare
When
Krishna,
they came,
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Let me.
We can all say it, yeah?
You can?
know how
We
to
can say it together.
You know how to say it?
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
If one repeats this mantra over and over and over again, let me say, anytime you remember, just recite this mantra. Just like someone who puts iron in fire, it gets all the qualities of fire. Mm-hmm. It can burn, it can do everything that fire can do. Just simply by repeating this message, this mantra, automatically one starts to remember God and his relationship with God.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the only way to get out of suffering in this age. No other way. Actually, this is mentioned in all religious books. It's just that somehow our teachers don't reveal this to us. Just by reciting the names of God.
Okay.
Yeah. If I'm allowed to quote other scriptures, I'm happy to do it. In the Holy Bible, quickly. In the Holy Bible, King David says, from the rising of the sun, from the setting of it, one should call upon God's name. In the Holy Quran, Prophet Muhammad says, out of all names, the most beautiful names belong to Allah. Call upon him by them. Okay. Simply by repeating the names of God. Even in Amida Buddha, all the religious books, actually. I can quote all of them. This chanting of God's names is the only way out of this suffering.
And it's so true.
Yeah.
And I wanted to stay here to talk again and again. It's so interesting. Yeah. Thank you very much, Gopa Kumar Das and Dina Chaitanya Das. It was a pleasure to have you. And Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's so quick.
Yeah, it was actually. That was flew by like a train.
Was okay.
Yeah, it was okay. Yeah, it was good. Yeah.